All right, it's Thursday, March 6th. We left PDAC earlier today and are in New York with Noa Lithium Brines, Gabriel Rubacha, the CEO. We also have the chairman, and Ofer is the major shareholder from Clean Elements and country manager. So we're just going to say a few words. Just give us a corporate update since we last interviewed you, Gabriel, and some thoughts from all of your meetings in Toronto and in New York.
No, we were able to create, as we discussed last time, create more awareness about the company, provide updates, several banks and institutions in Toronto and here in New York on our plans for 2025. The plan is to continue with our plans for this year. PA, it's in full promotion to get it in place and release in early second half of this year. We are working on complete our small exploration campaign for water during second quarter this year. So our plans are pretty much in motion, and we're confident that we're going to complete in time as we discussed.
That sounds great. And we talked, you raised money at the end of last year, $10 million. Just remind us the terms of that.
We raised 13.5 million Canadian from Clean Elements, and we are fully funded for this year, and all the plans that we got in place for this year fully funded, and we got the full support from Clean Elements if necessary to get additional funds if necessary. So we are very confident that the plans that we got in place and the funds in these market conditions that we are in good shape.
That deal was at 17 cents, right?
At 17 cents.
With a full warrant?
Full warrants at 22.5 cents.
And the stock today is?
34 cents.
34 cents. So substantially in the money. And if those warrants were exercised, how much cash would that bring to the company?
In excess of 16 million. Yeah.
16 million.
16 million.
Okay, so with the 10 million in the bank, U.S. in the bank, and another 16 million, that would fund you like through PFS?
Feasibility? Yes, feasibility. But in any case, we got a milestone in March. We got the 20 cents warrant that will provide 5 million. Those are 20 cents. And then we got 16 million. So we got a substantial number of warrants that can make an exercise, and our goals are on the money. So we are very confident.
There's not a lot of stock around, and there's plenty of cash to come into the company. And as we discussed, Argentina has had the most M&A of any country within lithium, and outside of lithium Argentina and Galan and lithium Chile, there's you, right? And this is a very solid project. The Rio Grande 525 milligrams per liter is higher than most of the companies that have been acquired, lower than a few, but I was surprised when I saw Zijin at PDAC, and I asked him about TREQ, and I didn't even realize that sold for like $900 million. Rincon, which Rio Tinto just bought. So there's been a lot of M&A, a long way to go from 50 million market cap where you are.
This probably is the last underdeveloped tier 1 project. And I would say that this financing probably is the only one that was accomplished for a junior miner in the last 24 months.
Yeah, and you're well funded, but you're there, Ofer, to follow your money. Most companies, you're walking around PDAC and everyone's telling you the market's closed, yeah. Right? But so, Ofer, is there anything that you can say as to what attracted you to put such a substantial investment and chip on this? This is your first investment in lithium, I think.
We monitor several potential assets, and we like the management of Shell particularly, their professionality, their experience, and we felt very comfortable with the investment. And of course, we like the assets, and particularly Rio Grande. which is a tier 1 asset with one of the highest concentration, as you have mentioned. And a combination of all those parameters convinces to invest.
I was listening to someone a couple days ago, Ken Hoffman, who's at McKinsey, and he was saying that he was in Riyadh at the Future Forum, and then after that he was at like another conference in America, and he couldn't help but he was just like amazed. There was super optimism, in the Middle East, and there was super pessimism in America, which and you shared similar kind of sentiment. Ofer, you're based in Tel Aviv, but you're saying everyone was like so negative in Toronto. Like what do you like? That there seems to be an arbitrage there because
in order to have a transaction, you need to have a pessimistic guy and an optimist.
And what makes
the World Trade Center and that's just described why markets exist.
Separate from what you commented about, the quality of Noah's asset and management team, but like you've had experience you've never invested in lithium, or not substantially. You did a little bit in mining, but like in lots of other industries. What attracts you to lithium?
I think that lithium is the future oil, and there's no other technology today than lithium ion, and it's getting applied by most of the OEMs. And I think this is the future, that the world is getting electrified. I see the number and the figures on a daily basis, the penetration rate of EV vehicles in China. This morning I read about Great Britain, that they have a growth of like 40% in the penetration of EV. And I see it on a daily basis. Battery storage, namely. I think that we're going to a humongous step toward electrification, and I want to be part of it.
That's great. Well, we welcome you to be the major shareholder in Noa Lithium Brines, and I think I speak for a lot of the viewers in Rockstock Channel and people who care about lithium. The lithium world needs new investors who may have missed the prior cycles to kind of come in, and it's great. Gabriel, hats off to you, and in identifying this property and all of your experience previously at Lithium Americas and Lithium Argentina. But there's contrarians out there, just like Gina Reinhardt at Hancock and others. Look forward to a year from now, 2 years from now, with even bigger smiles on your face, because you're already up on paper, but monetizing this in a substantial way. It's a matter of when, not if. I think you're in Salta, the best province in Argentina, the tailwinds of Argentina. Anyway, I'm biased. Arche Equity is an advisor too, and invested in Noa Lithium Brines. And do your own research. But you got, the story is not well known, and we're bringing it to our viewers to do some homework. There's no overhang of stock here because Ofer is backing this company in a very substantial way. So take care. Great seeing you guys.
Thank you.
Okay, we're here at PDAC, and we have Craig Shesky, the CFO of the metals company, who has a lot of cool looking with nodules here and other stuff. And you've had some good news, and the stock has been moving. I think you were at $1 for much of last year. You're now, I think, at $1.80. There's been a lot of tailwinds under the Trump administration. Don't say that too loudly here in Canada because they're not particularly happy about our president. But just give us a 4 or 5 minute update on recent news flow and why is the stock moving and what's in store for this year.
You got it. Well, frankly, I think it's the buildup of a lot of milestones that have been occurring over the last several years, where we've had our resource statements, we're finalizing our PFS, we've done our successful collection test, lifting 3,000 tons of these nodules to the surface, as you can see behind me. And actually just a month ago, announced that for the first time, we took these polymetallic nodules that you see right here and smelted them into high-grade nickel, copper, cobalt alloy and a manganese silicate product that goes into steel making. So a lot of these milestones hadn't yet reflected themselves in the share price because a lot of people were just focused purely on the geopolitical. What's this UN organization known as the International Seabed Authority? What are they going to do? What is their timeline? And I think people are realizing that these nodules represent such a huge opportunity for Western economies to truly establish mineral independence. For example, for nickel and manganese and cobalt, which are 3 metals in high amounts within our nodules, the US, for example, basically has to import all 3 of those metals, all of their needs. Other than one small mine in northern Michigan for nickel and cobalt called the Eagle Mine, there's no primary production of those. So this is an opportunity for countries who want to support this industry to truly take the reins of their critical metal supply chains and make sure they can circumvent any Chinese control of processing and refining. So I think there have rightfully been a lot of headlines and a lot of optimism for our share price, given the fact that the Wall Street Journal had a piece specifically on how Trump is good news for deep sea mining. And within the administration, the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, he has been a vocal nodule supporter. Howard Lutnick, former chairman and CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald, now Commerce Secretary, he knows this. In fact, he was asked about nodules during his confirmation hearing, and he said, yes, the U.S. needs to do it, we have to do it, and we're going to do it.
Was Cantor the banker who took you public?
Cantor did not take us public. Citi and Nomura Greentech and Fernleys took us public. Cantor has been, over the last couple of years, very helpful for us in raising some funds, but also they've been helpful on the research side. In fact, Matt O'Keefe, their research analyst in mining, views TMC as one of his top nickel picks. So I would encourage anybody who is a Cantor client to reach out for that research.
And so I met with Cantor yesterday that introduced a lithium company film, but anyhow. Okay, so that's good to hear. And there were a couple of other administrative people. Was it, just remind me, you put out a fact sheet with a whole bunch of people, which will flash up on this video, of people in the administration. And Trump mentioned yesterday critical minerals and rare earths. And I think an executive order is forthcoming, like in the coming days. They read in a TD Cowen note an expectation of that. So, and it's clearly in Ukraine and in Greenland. Critical minerals is very much on the mind of this administration. But the connectivity, critical minerals to seafloor nodule mining.
Well, it should be an obvious connection, and not everybody makes that connection. But yes, you mentioned some other names. Within the national security apparatus of the U.S., there are a lot of people who are also fans of this resource. In fact, the Pentagon has now been tasked in their annual spending bill to deliver a feasibility study on the refining of nodule intermediate products like the ones that we just produced in Japan. They're meant to deliver that feasibility study. We have a separate application for $9 million from the Department of Defense to do a similar feasibility study. There's a bill brought by Republicans in Congress from last year called the Responsible Use of Seafloor Resources Act. Frankly, the Republicans have been very supportive of this industry, and we think that's only going to accelerate. That's been a lot of the reason for these tailwinds. But I think it's also people are realizing TMC now can be more assertive in the driving of timelines and how we push forward, because we've completed most of the hard work now. And now we're in the stage where we are doing desktop work and writing up the environmental impact statement and putting together our application to launch in June of this year to go from exploration phase into commercial exploitation phase. So I think people are realizing this is truly the inflection point, not just for TMC, but for this whole industry. I would liken it to offshore oil and gas, where there's skepticism, let's say in 1960, about how big offshore oil and gas could be, and it became a third of the market quite quickly. I'm not saying it's going to be the same scale of operation for seafloor nodules, at least to begin, but TMC has the resource. We have the resource statements, we have the environmental campaigns, we have the offshore tech, the onshore tech, and the partnerships to get this moving in a very capital-light way.
Allseas, where are they based?
Allseas is based in the Netherlands. They've been extremely supportive. In fact, they supplied us with the vessel used to lift 3,000 tons of these nodules to the surface. And that vessel, the Hidden Gem, would be retrofitted and become our first production vessel. So Allseas has been an incredible partner. They've invested several hundred million all in, a lot of it on their own balance sheet. And they are already a 17% shareholder in TMC. So that's a partnership that's truly been transformational for our company.
Because the European stocks are doing well in the beginning of the year, and in particular defense stocks. People are saying that increased defense spending in Europe may catalyze more interest and understanding in critical minerals that go into defense applications.
That's absolutely right. And I think what you're seeing too on the floor here of PDAC, whereas a couple of years ago all the talk was battery metals, now it's shifted more towards applications for defense and infrastructure. The good news about these nodules is, about 80% of the contained metal value is nickel and manganese. Nickel is still dominated by stainless steel production, and TMC could quite easily be one of the larger providers of feedstock for stainless steel. And then the manganese is critical for carbon-based steel. So it's not something where we're solely dependent on an EV demand story. Yes, that would be a nice tailwind as well, but we're pretty well hedged with the mix of metals that we have, and all 4 of these metals in the same resource, which firmly plants us in the first quartile of the cost curve.
And there seems to be some competitive tension with China and all sorts of industries, and China is moving ahead with their own projects on the seafloor. So you don't do it, right? The Chinese are there. What was your recent agreement with the Japanese? Talk about that.
Our agreement with the Japanese was Pacific Metals in Japan. They have existing smelting lines. In fact, they have 3 rotary kiln electric arc furnace lines that since 1965 have been taking feedstock from places like Indonesia and turning it into these nickel products. Well, Indonesia stopped exporting raw nickel in 2020, and that's left a lot of spare capacity in Japan and elsewhere. So we have a binding agreement with Pacific Metals to take the nodules from this first vessel, the Hidden Gem, and bring that material to Japan for processing at an existing facility that requires minimal modifications and 0 capex borne by TMC. We just pay them a tolling fee to use that facility. So that agreement is a good example of why this industry is not decades into the future and it needs new onshore technologies. All of that technology exists, the flow sheets are proven, and the infrastructure is already there. We just have to pick up the nodules and send it their way.
Sounds good. Thanks very much for the update. I'm glad to see the markets starting to recognize TMC, but you still have a long way to go. I don't know, your market cap's probably, 550 million?
Yeah, it's about getting closer to 600 million right now, but still a long way to go.
Which is marginally above your invested capital and still 5 or 8% of your overall NPV.
That's exactly right, Howard.
Okay, and as we've mentioned before, if you'd like any research on the metals company, we have some research reports from some analysts. Please feel free to ping us at rockstockchannel@rkequity.com, and or we can connect you directly with Craig Shesky. Good talking to you, Craig.
Good talking to you, Howard.
Okay, we're here with Mitch Thomas of Solis Minerals, which has been a client of RK Equities as a lithium name last year, which was owned by Latin Resources. Mitch was ex-Latin Resources, and Hilber is now your biggest shareholder because they inherited their stake. So for all you Hilber shareholders out there, or any other interested parties on the ASX, Solis is also listed on the TSX. Tell us, I guess you still have your lithium. Last year you had lithium operations, but you also had copper, and you weren't focused on the copper, you were focused on the lithium. This year?
Yep. Yeah,
what's going on?
No, so look, thanks again. It's good to see you, Howard. I think the last time was fast markets last year, and the lithium market has been challenged, so it's nice to kind of have that lithium heritage. But look, for Solis, lithium was something that we looked at in 2023 and 2024, but in the background we were building this portfolio of copper projects. So I think it was 2 years ago we had 15,000 hectares in southern Peru. We're now at 66,000 hectares, and across that very big land holding, we've whittled it down to 3 targets. And so the company is in some respects back in its infancy. We've got a very clean capital structure, 140 million shares on issue. Pilbara, as you mentioned, is our largest shareholder. We own all of our projects 100%. We just raised 4.5 million. So in terms of this kind of rebirth of Solis, it's about drilling this year across those 3 targets, and they all look good. There's been some previous drilling on one of them, which was promising, but we're just moving the drilling to a slightly different direction. So, for us, we think it's very exciting. Copper and Peru is obviously a very strong thematic. We've had a lot of loyal shareholders that have crossed over from LRS to SLM, and so we think we're building something pretty good here.
All right. Well, Peru is a big copper producer, as is Chile, and so you're looking in the right jurisdiction, and we look forward to following the story, and hopefully you get some good hits with the 4.5 million you just raised. And your current market cap is what?
Yeah, so look, on a pro forma basis, post a raise, it's probably sitting around 12 or 13 mil once that cash comes in the door, and settlement in Australia is actually imminent, so it's happening in the next couple of days.
Okay.
So still very light, and what we've seen is that as we've put channel sample and other geochem results into the market, we've seen our share price respond, very strongly. I think because, as you say, copper and South America is a strong thematic, and we've seen that in M&A with BHP and other big mining companies. So, poised for big things. We just have to drill. So that's what we're looking forward to doing.
Okay, good luck with the Truth Machine.
Thanks very much, Howard. Cheers, mate.